Oh, thank you.
So Jeff, as far as you know, we have a forum, right?
I believe so. There's only 3 people that told me that were going to be funding with me, but so Chris and then.
Yeah. Diane said she's running late because of traffic. So we need enough.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of anybody else.
I haven't.
Okay, and what is quorum? So how many do I need to start? I mean, I can start with how many doing?
Oh. You need 9.
9. That's okay.
9.
9. That's good. We have 4 already. It's good. I think we'll get it, but it's just people, I guess. Diane said the traffic's really bad in her direction. She's gonna be about 2 minutes late. And we get a lot of people who come that direction. So,
Yeah, East County.
yeah. Go to girl's wedding?
I went to the reception.
Did you?
Yeah. For an hour. It was fun.
Was it at Lake Sherwood?
No, it was at the reception. He got married at his friend's house in Pelham. And then a reception was at Louis at West Lake Inn.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
interesting.
really nice.
Oh, that'd be nice, yeah. Sean Penn married him.
Yeah.
I saw that, I was like, really?
Yeah, he was at the reception.
That's pretty cool. Well, good for him. I hope he's happy.
Yeah, she's really sweet.
So you guys are dark in July the whole time?
Yeah, we got tonight, we got next Tuesday. We're off 6 weeks.
6 weeks. What are we paying you for? That's nice.
We always take 6 weeks in the summer.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, I guess we took, it takes 6, so council, we got 4 or 5. 4.
You're 5.
I think 5.
Yeah.
So I saw
Maybe it's 5. It's 5 or 6.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe first week in August.
Yeah. Yeah, we usually met. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, she did, yeah.
Just.
Yeah, yeah. He said he was gonna do just cause so he could participate, but not explore. Yeah, he did. I forgot to text you that.
Okay, so who's gonna?
Yeah, yeah,
As long as you have a phone here. it's
Yeah.
fine.
yeah.
You could just call him. I'll say it. The one they're gonna do is TV show and then the one.
Is he not here yet, but. Oh, okay. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. So.
Cillian.
Just on as well. So it's a safety.
I thought you were both wrong. I know that. It's one to make sure that you've heard this 10,000 times. But they're-
Yeah.
It's a state for it, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And me, that really mentioned
It is.
some of those features, Steve.
Does she really?
I guess.
Well, I, is
there-
And.
Oh.
So something.
Yeah, yeah.
But then.
So now it's going to see, I should have been operational.
Yeah, that's good.
Not at all. I thought it was definitely compared. That didn't,
You want to see me?
yeah.
No.
Not at all.
4, 6.
Yeah.
Because
So that's,
there's 12.
yes.
I know, so there's.
Four, 6. Oh, maybe it's another.
Another, yes.
Yeah.
More like.
Yeah. Maybe it might be another one. Yeah.
The county one is gonna be the one.
We find it.
Okay, so that's gonna be in addition to, which is all good.
Yeah, how was the traffic? Bad, that's what I heard from someone else. Yeah. How's your father do?
Yeah. Maybe we don't.
Touch and go?
I know, he might have need another surgery.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's the only thing. Thank you. Make sure things get. Yeah, maybe the residue out the middle, no? Not a residue, but the one that's not the 16 beds.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is, it is for residue.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. I didn't imagine it's gonna be right.
Like, oh, this is good, this is good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy. Gosh, we were,
We did do it.
I know how hard this, guys are. She's to get it approved and to give the awards is really something. Yes. But that's what it's. That's not the first time I've found it. 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's not, but at least for engineering,
It's.
that's all it is, how it works. So that's something you have to build from scratch.
No, that's consistent.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
As in. Okay, good. Well, I thought I knew the thing, but I thought, you know, because you've been hearing this and living it for a long time, yeah.
So. I know I have a little, but, yeah, check it out, and this is every.
It's once a month, thing.
The Tuesday?
I'm sorry. We're just waiting for a quorum. We know there's a lot of traffic from East County, so we need 2 more. Oh, because here's a. I can't.
I think I'm.
Just check your picture.
Jackie will take care of it. Green light. Yeah. Well,
Do you want to announce anyone?
yeah, I can do a road test. How are you feeling?
I'm doing CJ's last meeting with her today, but she's sick, so she's not gonna be here.
Okay, thank you. It was on. This because.
Yeah.
I think, and, he also knows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, not. Yeah, you're right. It's just. I have to take. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's true. We're gonna take, let's take our grandchildren. Sorry. So we have this segment. And he wants to go to financial market. So we'll take. Yes. Just one more. Yeah, so we got it. So I'm trying to figure out how to do the best. Yeah. Yeah, so like, so generally do it. Unless it's well, it's the year when they had those. It is great, yeah, it is great, so. One more, right? We know Diane's coming, so. She's coming too. Oh, she contacted me. All right. Michael, we don't have the bylaws yet translated, so what we're gonna, I'm just gonna say, unless you want to, that the committee met, we finalized them, but they have to be, they haven't been reformatted yet,
Okay,
and then we'll bring them next. Do you want to say that?
we hope to bring them back.
Well,
We expect.
we're expecting, yes, thank you.
We meet next month.
No, we're meeting. Yeah, I know you're not here.
When is it?
But we're, you know, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have an orientation.
I'll be back with it.
But you will?
Yeah.
We're gonna do, I'm gonna do something different, where Teresa comes down, so we're gonna be on Zoom, and we're gonna do an orientation, because we have several new members. And it's a good reminder for all the rest of us, so she's gonna be on Zoom and do part of it, we'll talk about our two committees and the structures that we have now, and how to get them going again and that kind of stuff, so it's kind of a restart since we've had this rather strange year. So.
I'll be here, so that's great.
Okay, great. Oh, there's Diane. We have a quorum.
There? Yeah.
Okay, you wanna sit there? Yeah, that's fine. Are you sure? Okay.
We can talk about it. I do this too. Okay,
Sure, she stepped out.
who did? Oh, Sylvie. What she is?
It was. Should be starting out of this now. Yeah.
We just can't do the reading. You know, so easy.
I think by the time you get there.
Figure it out. They did. Ask Jackie what it is, so we know. What is the code? Oh, there, but it's sort of.
Okay.
You do it.
Oh, it's on just up there.
Yeah, they do change it.
Oh, so it's okay. Okay, we have a quorum, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Meeting for June 16th. thank you all for being here. I know more people are coming. There's heavy traffic, so, but we have a course, so we're gonna start. And we will start with our interpreter, giving us some instructions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ricardo Garcia. I'm one with the Gladys Ramos. We're gonna be doing the interpreting today. Instructions to access the interpreter via Zoom on your computer. After the host activates language interpretation mode, click the interpretation icon and select the language that you would like to hear. English and Spanish interpretation is available. Optional. To only hear the interpreted language, click mute original audio. Via phone, in your MIDI controls, tap more at the bottom right in the mobile phone app and top right in the tablet app after the host activates language interpretation mode. Select language interpretation and click the language that you would like to hear. English and Spanish interpretation is available. If the icon is not visible, tap the screen to make it appear. Reminder, speak slowly, pause between sentences, speak clearly, avoid interrupting or multiple people speaking, avoid using metaphor, acronyms, slang, or idioms. Interpreting us during the meeting, speak slower, raise your voice, interrupt for clarification or communicate a concern. Acceso al intérprete a través de Zoom por computadora. Después de que el anfitrión active el modo de interpretación del lenguaje, haga clic en el símbolo de interpretación y seleccione el idioma que desea escuchar. Interpretación en inglés y en español están disponibles. Opcional, para solo escuchar el idioma interpretado, haga clic en omitir audio original. A través del teléfono, en los controles de la reunión, oprima la opción más después de que el anfitrión active el modo de interpretación del lenguaje. Esta opción estará localizada en la parte inferior a la derecha de la aplicación en su teléfono y en la parte superior a la derecha de su aplicación en su tableta. Una vez ahí, seleccione interpretación del lenguaje y elija el idioma que desea escuchar. La interpretación en inglés y en español están disponibles. Si el símbolo no está visible, toque la pantalla para que aparezca. Recordatorio, hable despacio, pausa entre oraciones, hable con claridad, evite interrumpir o varias personas hablar entre sí. Evite usar metáforas, siglas, doble sentido o modismo. Señales del intérprete durante la junta, hable despacio, hacer la voz, interrumpir para clarificación o para comunicar un problema. Muchas gracias and thank you so much.
And thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna do roll call right now, and I'm gonna just have everybody introduce themselves, and that'll be our roll call. Starting, well, I don't wanna start. You just got here. You're okay with that? Okay, starting with Genevieve.
Start the roll call? Is there a list?
No,
just introduce
yourself.
No, just introduce
Sorry.
yourself.
She's
Sorry, I'm throwing it all up.
As I just got back to Chicago, so.
Good for you.
Good for me, hello. Genevieve Flores, Kyle, Plan Vice Supervisor, Matt Liver.
Hi, Delia Robkin, Supervisor Patty.
Hi, everyone, Matt Lepierre representing the Board of Supervisors.
Good afternoon, Michael Rodriguez, District 5.
Sally Garcia, District 3. Nancy Boucher, District 3, and a family member.
Naomi Marupo, District 3.
Cheryl Hatton, I'm the board chair, and I'm from District 1.
Sorry.
I'm Diane McKay, I'm from District 2, and I'm the board vice chair.
Hi. My name is Soledad Moragan y represento al Distrito 5.
Connie Plaza, and Assistant Director of Behavioral Health Care for Dr. Dennery.
Thank you. Okay, we do have one person, I think Andre's online here, so, but with just cause, so you can participate in the meeting. So you want to introduce yourself too?
Yes, thank you. Andre Barbaro here present, representing District 1 Supervisor Levier.
Next is the agenda, and I'm going to ask to reorder the agenda. And I'll explain why, but I'm gonna ask if we can put the new business item, which is a review of the county budget, to the last item after all of our other business. It's a rather lengthy review. It's longer than we anticipated. And so for those of you who want to stay, we're going to go through the budget. But of those you don't feel you have the extra 15 minutes to devote to that, then there's a link and I will explain to you how you can see it on your own time. But we do ask that everybody look at it because it is the budget for this coming year. Okay, so that with that, are there any other changes to the agenda? Any other- Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with that change. Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and oops, Diane, CJ's not here, so I'm gonna ask you to.
Sure.
Okay, do the roll call vote.
Okay. Soledad Barragan,
Yes.
Daniel's absent, Andre Lobrow,
Yes.
Nancy Orchard,
Yes.
Jeffrey Allen, Jeff Davis not here, Chris. Genevieve Flores Haro,
Yes.
Sylvia Garcia,
Yes.
Rebecca Gregorian. CJ's not here, Supervisor Levere,
Yes.
Naomi Merford,
Yes.
Diana K, yes, Dahlia Roken,
Yes.
Michael Rodriguez,
Yes.
Marla Torres, Cheryl Hayden.
Yes. An agenda item passes. Now we have the minutes from May 19th. If you've read the minutes, even if you weren't here, you can vote. Any
Motion to
changes?
approve the minutes if that's needed. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Diane again.
Soledad,
Yes.
Daniel's absent. Andre
Yes.
Lobrow. Nancy Orchard,
Yes.
Jeff Davis isn't here, Chris Dyer, Genevieve,
Yes.
Sylvia Garcia,
Yes.
Rebecca Gregorian.
I'm here.
Supervisor Levere,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
Diana McKay, yes. Dahlia Roken,
Yes.
Michael Rodriguez,
Yes.
Marlon's not here, Cheryl Hayden.
Yes, that motion passes also. Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments? I'm not seeing anybody in the audience? No? Did you get any requests, Jackie? No? Okay, I don't see any public comments. We'll move on. Chair announcements. Well, I wanted to let you all know that CJ, who's been our secretary and a very loyal member for years, this is her last meeting, but she was ill, so she's unable to be here unfortunately. So we wanted to recognize her and thank her for all she's done, because she's remained an officer a couple different times, and she was chairing our bylaws committee with Nancy this time, and is just always steps up and takes a real active role, and we really appreciate all she's done. And sorry she's not here for her last meeting. She wanted to be here, but is unable to. So we will send her good wishes, and if anybody else wants to comment and we can send her the comments, that would be nice. Yeah, Nancy?
Yeah, I just want to second your comment about CJ. She's been a wonderful member and easy to work with. So calm and rational, always willing to look at both sides of what's going on. So we really have appreciated working. I have extraordinarily, warm feelings for her. She's a good friend as well as a good person to work in our committees and different things. So we thank her very much.
Anybody else? Diane?
I'm lucky in that CJ will still remain active and I will get to see her from time to time, but for her work here on this board, I just think she was always thought things through and often thought of things that maybe other people didn't, because she thinks with her whole heart, and I just really appreciated her input on this board.
Michael?
Actually, Genevieve was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just stretching.
Okay, I tried. No, it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with CJ. She's always been a voice of reason, and she's been one of the board members who, not only like, she would show up to work and she would sign up and volunteer and follow through with tasks that she agreed to do. So much appreciated, and it's a loss for us, but wish her all the best.
Genevieve, did you want us? No, okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, we will pass those comments along to her, with a big thanks. I'm sorry, like I said, that she's not here. We were scheduled to have District Attorney Eric Nasarico today as our presentation, but because there is a budget board meeting, a special supervisor budget meeting, he's unable to attend. He'll be at that meeting. So, he is going to be here in September. He will be our presenter in September. Next month, I wanted to mention to you that the executive committee talked about the fact that we do have several new members. Unfortunately, most of them are not here today, but we do have several new members joining us. And we may have at least one more by then. And we wanted to do an orientation meeting. So in July, this will be primarily, the presentation will be orientation. We will do regular business because we'll have a little bit, but most of the meeting will be with Teresa Comstock. She'll be on Zoom. She comes from the California Behavioral Health Advisory Boards and Commissions. She's the state director, and she will be helping us with that. We'll be kind of agendizing how we want to do that. We'll be talking about both of our ad hoc committees and how to kind of get them started again. Because of the turmoil that we've had this year with so many people having to resign, it has been difficult to keep going, and now we have several new people. So we thought this meeting might be a time to kind of reset and start again, sort of fresh. So this is what our plan is for that meeting. And I think that was my only other announcement. Okay, moving along to the director's report. We're lucky to have Connie with us today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I wanted to just share some good news and some sad news for us, but more good news. Our very own Jackie De Leon, we're so happy for her. She's leaving our department, but she's continuing on to the clerk of the board office, which we're very, very happy for her. So Jackie, I just want to tell you on behalf of all our department, we want to thank you for doing this very important role. Sorry if you want to say anything.
I just want to say thank you, Connie, and that I'm very thankful to have been able to be in this position and meet you all, and I really appreciate working with you all and the board. You're all amazing, and I appreciate what you do for the community and for mental health, so thank you.
You guys know that I'm gonna miss Jackie because she sings. She'll start singing in the office and while I'm trying to get to her beat, so I'm gonna miss that. She'll start with the humming and then she'll start singing. She has her hearts on or something, and we're like, all right, Jackie's right in the house. So I'm gonna miss you among many other things. So she has been extremely helpful to me in particular, one of the newest members. So I just want to highlight some of the report. I'm going to just make some basic highlights, but we wanted to show you some of the observed observances from our department. PTSD Awareness Month, Men's Health Month, Pride Month, and Juneteenth. Again, we have a holiday coming up. And as it was mentioned, today is our directors preparing for going to the budget hearings that are happening today. So that's why she's not here today. Very high level, as you know, we were restructured and we have administrative divisions and we have clinical divisions. Our administrative divisions have been extremely busy, as well as our clinical operations, preparing for what you continue to hear on a regular basis. Proposition 1 is going to, as you know, we have to do an integrated plan for our departments. So all our funding, all our services. So I want to thank, I know Courtney's here, Courtney LaBelle, who's our champion, leading us and taking us that end line. But very busy. We're also looking at the community health assessments to ensure that we have the most current data so we can incorporate in our priorities as we're going to be including in our planning process soon. We hope later this summer, you should be getting a communication on some of those planning sessions. So Proposition 1 is gonna keep us busy for a while, so that's, I think you also heard, of course, we got our 93 million in pennies, cents, for the MHRC and the PUF as well, psychiatric health facility. So planning all that infrastructure, we're very busy with that as well, very excited, but we're gonna be of course, in a very thoughtful, planful way with our great partners, advocates for human potential, the Department of Healthcare Services. We're also working quite a bit on what is called BH Connect, which is preparing us for all the different evidence-based practice that we're gonna have to abide by for the state, for all our systems of care, our children and youth and families. There's gonna be several evidence-based practice implemented there, as well as an adult system. So we will definitely bring you a presentation later as we are evolving. So those changes are keeping us very, very busy. Of course, our managed care operations under Karen Lee, very busy with compliance, quality, training our workforce, just all the things that we need to have in place to be successful in implementation of CalAIM and all the requirements that we have. That's every day. On our clinical operations, our outpatient clinics are very busy as well with, as you may know, we're on the 3rd year of our current 3-year Mental Health Services Act plan. And that requires that we organize ourselves with what's called full service partnerships. So we are very busy ensuring that we have those ratios that we have to meet by the state. And then we have our staff organized in different clinics for folks to access our services timely and to ensure that the highest quality of services provided. That is very much analysis, planning, and really strategizing on the best ways to set up our services. Our critical care navigation division, Sarah Sanchez division, very busy with our van, our behavioral health mobile van. We're keeping them very busy. They've done 40 events already since January, and I want to publicly thank them. But also, we are trying to make sure that our services are available in places that there's not a clinic. So we want our folks to access our services and hopefully trust us and go to the van for services so we can link them and connect them to the right service and the right level of care. So our team is very, very busy. We offer English and Spanish, and we have a diverse team from different disciplines that is out in the community and helping our community get into services. And then last but never least.
Eyes on that, this one, on the mobile care.
Yeah.
I thought they were supposed to be included, like, at some point that they would also go on crisis calls that were out in the community. You know, like someone's having a problem, particularly like you say, in the rural communities where there isn't a clinic, not someone to come, or maybe they're far away from the places that this crisis team is stationed.
So we do have our RISE program. We offer our mobile crisis intervention services. That's available 24. We have that available as well. But this then, in particular, if they are in a rural area and that service is needed, we will provide it. It is, and we have clinician, contact counselor, we have a peer. So we have it organized in a way that they can respond. Then the mobile van has a clinician as well, so as well as our RISE program. But we do have those services available as well.
So if you're a citizen in this rural community and somebody in your family is having a problem, how do you know that the van is there to help you?
So for real specific reasons, we wanted to have this van in locations that were trusted in the community. So we partnered with different organizations to ensure that they're in those places, especially now with what's going on in our society. There's a lot of fear and mistrust of government agencies. We've had it for a long time, but more pronounced now. So they're scheduled in real specific locations, and we can definitely provide you that list of where they go every week. And they're organized. It is countywide, countywide. And again, if anybody in that particular community needs that particular service, we will link them and or we will call our RISE team and or we will provide it there. Yeah, that's the whole point for us, is to kind of build trust and also for them to really want to engage in our services. And if it's not us, if it's Gold Coast or if it's anybody else, we will do a lot of linkage. Yeah, please keep us posted if you're hearing anything else, because we want to make sure that we're in the right locations, but they're pretty busy with the established schedule.
Right, but I think that's so good. Going to communities that are having an event, that's one thing. But just to be regularly in a place that you could say, oh, I remember seeing a van there, and you know how families talk to each other and they don't know what to do and they're in a panic. And so it's always that crisis mode, if we can facilitate that, it's wonderful.
Definitely. And also, we always have our, crisis line numbers, we have our 988, we have everything. Is very well organized, and we are working, Sarah Sanchez is working with our medical director, Dr. Cooper, to look at the prescription medications. If the van is set up for medications to be able also provided on a mobile service, so that's being organized as we speak. Again, our goal is to go as to the rural communities as well. And as we are trusted and get known, we hope they offer a location that we can be expanded to. That's the goal. My dream and goal is that we have 10 vans. We only have 2 vans. We have the Behavioral Health one through the Innovations Project through Mental Health Services Act. And then we have the substance abuse van too. They do a lot of work as well to reduce overdoses and to educate about substance abuse. So between those 2 vans, they keep very busy, but I think we're gonna need more mobile services. I think so, more than in an organized way. And then on the forensics, reentry and justice involved, our Dr. John Shipper, who's our leader, we are busy with care court and our assist programs, and he presented to you here. The numbers are picking up. Thank you, Dr. Shipper, and to our partners here, Mr. Rodriguez and others who are very much involved with the success of that partnership. And then also very involved with our mental health diversion for our Department of State hospitals, our diversion clients who are under that program. Very involved in developing that continuum, and definitely we're going to be looking at evolving that program as well and making it fit the needs of the population. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions.
Let's conjure
Um,
more.
Yeah, right. Can you provide us with where the van does go, the mobile van? I think it'd be interesting if we, yeah, we
Yes.
kind of have that idea so we can also spread that word.
Yes, we will definitely do that. Okay.
And it would be nice to know, this is new, right? This mobile van?
So, those of you who, so with Mental Health Services Act, the innovation project is supposed to be a 5-year project. My understanding, just being here the short time I've been here, is that it was delayed, the van not being ready. It was just since January to today, they've done the 40 outreach events. And it had been sitting there with, what happens with this kind of program sometimes until the parts all put in and everything is designed accordingly and is ready to go, then they'll send it. So that was the delay, it caused a delay there, which is not uncommon in, as you probably heard since COVID, we've had a lot of things delayed, but yeah, we're moving forward and like I said, our team, you have some photos of the van in your report, but we will definitely send you the locations.
I think it would be really interesting to maybe have just a short report. We could put this down maybe for next time. On exactly kind of somebody comes to the van, what they can expect. Yes, okay, since it's new and it seems like it's kind of an innovative thing and something in the community, so we can help promote that.
Yeah, I can tell you now what the services that are offered if you like. Good. So yeah, so what they do is they go out to the specific locations. They are there not only for information, dissemination and linkage and referral, but also to build rapport and trust with the people who do come towards the service on the van. They have a peer, they also try to engage folks with lived experience to hopefully engage them into treatment or our services. The main goal is for us to get them linked to the right service, so they don't have to knock on multiple doors, and also the right level of care. The staff are looking, I know like the substance abuse vans, for instance, we asked if they also do screenings, so they can do screenings. Our staff can do screenings from our access team to ensure that they meet criteria for us, or if they meet criteria for other providers. So they do that now. Once we get to the ability to offer medications, and we'll have a nurse and a psychiatrist, then that would be considered like more treatment. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, I mean, you have a question too. Just one more follow up. You said it's multilingual, right? It's in Spanish. So somebody's there who also speaks Spanish. Okay, great. Dalia and then Andre.
I just wanted to know where we can get more information about this van and what they do.
Well, we have the information, we can definitely send it to you. We do want to post on our website, we promote it. But what I want to, my goal, my dream is that we can have a way for communities to request our van. Like in the previous county that I come from, it was posted there was a calendar of dates when it was available, and then the community member or whoever would pick the date and reserve it. so that the county could send the team to that van. So that's hopefully my long-term dream and goal. But definitely we can send that to you, and our goal is to post it as well with our website.
Thank you.
Andre?
Thank you. I had a question about the graph that shows the year-over-year comparison by month for all VCBH encounters or consumers. I see it's downtrending this year by 11%, and that goes against the last 4 years. Yeah, and I know that things go down as well as they go up. I'm just curious if there is any theories or objective reasons why to explain this.
Very preliminarily, we are noticing a drop. We are looking at our show rate as well, no show rates. But we have been, I know I've been here the short time that I've been here, we're trying to engage with our Latino community and other communities to come to our services, and we hear the fear, we hear the mistrust, we hear in some situations I've heard we don't have the staff that speak our language or know our culture or your office hours, and we've been doing a lot of education to ensure that they know we're there, that we have the bilingual workforce, the array of services that we offer. So we do consistently a lot of education. But we are looking at that, we are looking at those numbers very closely to ensure what else we can do to ensure that people come in.
Okay, any follow-up, Andre? You're good? Okay. Okay, thank you, Connie. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Connie, for filling in. We always appreciate that. Okay, our next agenda item is the election of officers for fiscal year 25-26. And the nominating committee, Nancy Butcher, is representing it here today. Nancy?
I think I've done this before now, and I think having the actual procedure. I will list the names of all of our nominees that you've read and heard from the previous meeting. And then we will call a vote. Now, that's what I'm unsure about. The vote is a voice vote. Is that correct? Yeah, okay.
It has to be, voice, but it can be.
A roll call.
Yeah.
Okay. So the slate of officers for 25-26 are for our chairman, Cheryl Heitman, our first vice chairman, Diane McKay, second vice chair, Dr. Andre Blubron, and secretary is Genevieve Floral. Sorry, Flores, it's not Floral, sorry, Flores Aro. I don't know, can we ask for nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations for that, or do we entertain them?
I did last month.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
When I chaired the meeting last month, I asked for nominations from the.
Oh, so you've done that, okay, so we don't need to do that now. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to withdraw my name from consideration for secretary.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. It is too busy, huh? Yeah, okay. Okay, well, thank you for considering. Anybody else is willing to step in at this point? Otherwise, we'll just move forward with the folks that we have, and then we'll have to.
Isabel was, she said.
Yes.
So
So Sylvia, you're willing to step in?
Because we were talking about asking you to do that at some date, and so we thought. I know you've only been on the board a short while, and I thought that might be intimidating, but I'm really happy that you're.
I believe in you.
Engaged and willing to do. Thank you, so
great.
that's awesome. I'll step it up, right in there, for the moment, yeah.
So do you want to redo the?
Yes.
The slate?
So one more time, Chair, Cheryl Hartman, first vice chair, Diane McCain, second vice chair, Dr. Andre Blubron, and our secretary is Sylvia Garcia is president. Sylvia Garcia, I'm sorry I'm being so lame. I've been out of touch a little bit. Some stuff going on in my family. Anyway, that is our slate of officers. I'm very pleased that people are willing to serve, and we have a great list of folks willing and able to do the work. So I present that to their board for consideration for the vote. And could I ask, are you doing the roll call vote?
Yeah, and we need a motion and a
On
second.
a motion, but we can do, I think we can do the whole slate, so we don't need
Oh,
to be
yes.
individuals, so, yeah, we just need a motion to second. Okay.
I'll go approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
There you go. Okay. Good, all right.
Okay. Soledad,
Yes.
Andre,
Yes.
Nancy? Yes. Genevieve,
Yes, and thank you.
Sylvia,
Yes.
thank you. Supervisor Bear,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
myself, yes. Dahlia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Cheryl.
Yes. Well, thank you all. That motion passes. We have a new board committee starting in July 1, so next meeting. And that will also include the next executive committee meeting. So for those of you who are new, you will get notices and the agendas for the executive committee as well as the general meeting. But thank you all, and thanks Nancy and CJ for doing the nominating committee. Appreciate that. And thank you all. And we're gonna get you later, Genevieve. You'll be on our list. For sure. Someday, but we certainly understand you. Okay, thank you all. We'll move forward now. Board member comments and announcements. Do we have any? Genevieve, sorry.
Yes.
This time I did raise my hand. Yeah, and I think, just part of why I declined, the nomination, I think between this board meeting and last, I just wanted to name for the group, especially last week, we had a significant increase in ICE presence in our community here in Ventura County. Last Tuesday alone, we had about 40 community members taken last Tuesday alone, and so it's just been really heavy. Especially those of us who work in immigrant communities, and as it relates here with the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, as it relates with the Ventura County Behavioral Health, we're gonna just see an uptick in the need of services. You know, I've spoken, you know, with, you know, a woman who lost her husband. She doesn't know where he's at. Met with a 12-year-old boy that was sobbing. Both of his parents were taken, and both of these cases, neither one had criminal records. So yeah, I just wanted to name that. It's just, it's getting closer and closer. I think I said that this last board meeting. Even today, there was ICE near Pacific and Hearst and Oxnard, so it's here, it's in our community. It's real, and yes, just appreciate folks in this body being able to step up. I think that's what's personally keeping me going, is that we're here in community together. We're here to work together. Yeah, we're gonna get through this in community, but yeah, there's a lot of good people that, you know, their families are being taken apart, torn apart by the federal administration, and it's real. But just thank you. But yeah, it was 40 last Tuesday only. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. In terms of accessing services, Genevieve, for folks like you're saying, who are gonna desperately need services. But is that, are you finding it's difficult because of fear?
I think it's, if we think of it in terms of like Maslow's hierarchy, like folks are afraid to even go out to go grocery shopping. So in terms of just accessing mental health services, like that's not even on folks' radar, but we do know that folks are in need of that, right? I think we're just taking it, not even a day at a time in certain cases, but it's like one moment at a time. And it's literally people that don't know where their loved ones are. Those first 24 hours when someone is taken by ICE are so critical. It's important for folks to know what their A number is. Because what happens is that they get taken, and there's an office in Camarillo where they get taken to, and they could, after they get processed in the Camarillo office, they either get sent off to Alamance, which is a detention center. There's another detention center in Santa Ana, but we've heard cases of folks getting sent off to like as far as Seattle. And that's why folks don't know where their people are. It's important to get in touch with like an attorney as soon as you can if not an attorney in the Mexican consulate. And even with some of the attorneys that are out there, and I can send a list to Jackie of, like trusted immigration attorneys if folks would like that resource. Cause we have some attorneys that are out there that are charging people up to $3,000, $4,000 just to start the process. There's a lot of folks that are taking advantage of people that are in need. And yeah, it's a scary time. It's a scary time. It's quiet, you know, I think just folks are scared. And just, you know, someone who grew up in Oxnard I was literally out 5 in the morning Wednesday patrolling Fifth Street, just going up and down from Oxnard to Camarillo. Just keeping my eyes out for any ICE activity. There's a couple dozen of us just driving throughout the streets, just trying to report and block where we can. It's pretty dystopian right now, but yeah. This is the moment that we're in, but like I said, we're in community together, and I just wanted, like, if folks weren't aware, like, I just wanted to make folks aware, like, this is what some of us are living through right now.
Thank you. Diane?
And Jen, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but some people think that because they've said, you know, we're not gonna raid farms anymore. I don't think that that makes any difference, because I don't think anyone believes anything. But has there been any reduction for real? I mean, is there any hope? I mean, that we can, and not just hope, but there's always hope, but I mean, how can we help?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're not already connected to, there are 2 rapid response networks in Ventura County. One is VC Defensa, and then the one that Mike is formally connected to is 805 Immigrant. I should have had those as part of my board comments. I didn't. I wasn't really anticipating speaking, but Spirit called. I can get those numbers as well. But just even getting connected to those resources, just to know when ICE is in our community. Both rapid response networks offer trainings, whether to be a volunteer, to be a legal observer. They also offer trainings to community members on know your rights, both in English and Spanish. I would say those are good starting points. We did know, as part of 805 Immigrant, that there was gonna be an uptick in activity, between June 10th and June 15th. So now that it's June 16th, I'm not sure what that's gonna look like. Like I said, we had about 2 or 3 reports of ICE in Oxnard today alone. But before that, it was like one after the other, like my phone was going off nonstop. Cause I'm connected to 805 Immigrant and just receiving this nonstop reports from 5 in the morning until about 4:30 p.m. It's been pretty quiet, but again, we've had about at least 3 in Oxnard today.
Michael?
Yes, and unlike in criminal law, immigration and removal proceedings, folks are taken anywhere, wherever they're in. Adelanto's the closest one out in Lancaster, then Santa Ana, but they'll take them to Arizona, down like in the middle of the desert, down in Florence. They'll take them out in Texas. And I've heard of people being sent back east as well. And so and then people don't know where their loved one is. And then the other thing I want to just add, I think it's really important that we trust those who are trained in this area of law. Not in addition to those who are charging, but there's folks out there going around. Some of them are doing know your rights, and I appreciate the effort, but they don't have, in my mind, sufficient knowledge and experience on litigating warrants, on litigating, on doing removal defense. And so it's important that, we rely on trusted sources out there. There are, I don't want to say plenty, there are trusted folks out there who are doing really great work. And my cop's one of them. And they're tied to a great network, particularly 805 Immigrant. And so, it's just, it is going to be troubling time. And like you're saying, Diane, like, who can trust what's being said? Because this isn't like people's lives and turmoil aren't light switches to be turned on or off. And so, we're not going to know whether they stopped raiding the fields or stopped raiding the factories or the packing houses until they don't. And there's only time will tell, but my guess is, I know when I'm driving to work, the fields are much emptier now than I've ever seen them. And I've been in this area been in the county since '69. So I've been, used to seeing, being around a lot of agricultural, areas, so. You know, we gotta stay strong and, work together and, hopefully augment our respective resources so that we can, do right by a community that significantly contributes to not only our economic vitality, but also, sustaining, our very lives. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, and I guess Genevieve, if you can send us anything, I mean, if people are going that far away, I don't know how they're gonna get back and have the resources to get back, and so working on that. And anything else that is out there. Because again, they're not gonna get the mental health services they need, as soon as they need them either.
Yeah, and so to that end, the number to the network that my club's tied to, again, that's 805 Immigrant. It's being run by 805 on DocuFund, which I'm a board member of. So that number is 805-870-8855. And you can text alert or alert that to that to get looped into text message alerts. And then you can also follow them on social media, and they'll let you know when they're doing know your rights trainings. I think they're doing one like this Friday in Camarillo. They're doing a legal observer training. Yeah, and I know 805 DocuFund is also currently fundraising for an emergency aid for those who are also impacted. So for example, one of my staff, her father was taken like back in May. And they're able to provide economic relief because from one moment to the next, she became the head of her household. So they're able to provide her with some economic assistance. And yeah, she was even saying at our staff meeting this morning, like, yesterday was Father's Day. And it's so horrible in these detention centers, like he wasn't even able to like shower or anything like that. It's pretty deplorable what's happening to our immigrant community, immigrant documented community. So, thank you for the space.
And then one last thing as well, and because our courts have held that immigration is a privilege, not a right, that people who are for all intents and purposes are jailed, they're incarcerated. And the conditions are oftentimes worse than what we see for folks who are accused of crimes. And I'm not advocating lowering that bar whatsoever. But they do not have a right to appointed counsel free of charge. And so they have to rely on hiring someone, and then the other thing is when people are in turmoil, just reaching out and kind of just like grasping for air, whatever name pops up on their Google search, which may or may not be someone who's trusted and competent, so.
Yeah, right. Great information. Thank you, Nancy. Did you hear?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask again, did I hear you say, and I think I did, that the first 24 hours are the most important because they are going to be taken to Camarillo first. And then it depends, I guess, how many processing things they have to do each day. Can families call that office or go there, or how? If I was a family person that just was in that panic, what would be the best thing to do you think?
The best thing to do would be to try to get an attorney and to try to find out what the A number is for that person, because that's how you're gonna be able to track. My understanding is that when the person is detained, they're given a bracelet with that A number.
A is an apple.
A is an apple. Yeah, and that's a number that's issued by USCIS. I know no acronyms, I'm sorry. And I'm not entirely sure if you're allowed to enter the office in Camarillo. I'm not entirely sure if you're allowed to call the office in Camarillo. I know it's a private office. There's not a contract that the city of Camarillo has with that particular entity. I know I was asking that question myself, if there is a contract, because I know certain cities do have contracts with ICE. And I was told pretty recently, from a fairly reliable source that is not a contract that the city of Camarillo has with ICE.
Okay, well, thank you. I think everyone's concerned, and it's good to have this information so that we can pass it on, hopefully, There's a hand.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, I'm sorry, so I didn't see it.
I know that there's like limits what BHAB can and can't do. And considering that, you know, what's happening, I was wondering if there's any way that we can maybe provide psychological first aid. I forgot it's called, it's like trauma first aid or and you don't have to have a degree. So I know like a lot of people wanna help, but like if there's a, you know, if there's a large rate at location. And we have people that are trained in psychological first aid that they can go out to that site. Or, you know, maybe go out to that family member's house, if we know like getting information from employers, like who was taken. I think that's just one of those things that like it's in our control. I know that that might require more money, and I think that would be something that we could ask like an emergency funding from the state or something. But I think that that would be very helpful because this is not similar to something like a hurricane or an earthquake, but you know, PTSD is involved with these rates. So I just wanted to ask if that's something that we could do, if that's possible.
So you're asking us, the staff, basically, if that's something that's possible or.
Yeah, if that's something that's possible, and we could ask some funding from the state to have that. I mean, because it's, you don't have to have trained, like you don't need counselors with, you know, MSWs or something. You can actually train people to volunteer to go out to those locations and do that, and then maybe, you know, work with BCBH.
I just want to clarify. Yeah. When you say locations, which locations?
Well, I mean, that would also be like regarding like if there's you know, right at the at a rate. Like you could send people for psychological first aid, or and then you could also get them or if it's a rate at a house or a neighborhood. I mean, it's very traumatizing. And also being able to get some information of who was taken because, you know, having to provide that psychological first aid to family members.
Well, let me take this request back and see what we can do in those situations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move along to the old business. The first agenda item is approval of the bylaws, and Michael, I'll let you speak to the.
Sure, we, Diane, Cheryl, and I met last week, and CJ. And we believe we, have a final draft ready for, to be sent over to DCBH. The draft needs to be formatted as well as translated. So we expect to have it in front of the board next month, for next month's meeting.
Great, thank you. And the TAG working group, we are gonna be, again, probably talking more in depth the next meeting about these two working groups. Diane, did you want to say something about the TAG one?
It's just that, again, the TAG wanted to start with having CBOs from around the county and then all around the county come and speak to what they offer to this specific group, to transitional age youth, so that we know what services are out there either for free if they're a nonprofit or if they take private insurance. So as Medicaid changes and may or may not be able to serve as many people, that we know what alternatives are out there and where they are. And so we will start working with staff to make calls to maybe have one or two, or if they're small, 3 come per meeting and give us a presentation of what they offer and what their financial structure is, so that we know what else is out there, as we know we're gonna have some probably wider gaps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving into new business, we did reorder that agenda, so, let's just get through the other things, if there are any other presentation requests. Recognition award recommendations, and I do encourage the board to think about, let's recognize small people from the community, because I think that's a really effective thing we can do and show our appreciation for those people in the community who are working with the either drug abuse issues or psychological issues who we're helping and maybe don't get that recognition. And moving to the contracts, anything on any, there's a lot of them, any questions on any of these contracts that people have, or comments?
I just have my same comment that we're looking at them after they've been approved by the Board of Supervisors, so I don't understand why we just went through that thing of having a conflict of interest, since we look at the contracts after they've been approved and signed. It just, if we're gonna look at them and have any say-so on them, that would happen before they're approved and signed. So I just, the order of this is still confusing. After a full term on this board, it is still confusing to me why we do this.
And it might be a good question for our next meeting. Yes, okay, Andre, I see your hand up.
Thank you. I see, usually, well, in my limited experience, there's 1 or 2 or 3 contracts, and then there's 12 this month. Is that because it's the end of the fiscal year and there's a lot that's shoehorned in at the end of the year, or is there another reason?
Probably right. Let me just check with staff.
Yeah, I think what most of these are were budget modifications. So since they were approved by the board previously, if we need to change the budgets, we have to take them back to the board before the end of the fiscal year. So these were almost all of these, if you notice, the terms were for 24, 25. Most of these, I don't believe, were new contracts.
Thank you. Okay, are there any public comments before we go back to the budget? Oh, okay. So, as we mentioned before, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, go ahead.
I think I've asked this question before, but I know we're talking about one thing that's going away, MHSA is going away. And yet we keep approving the 3-year plan according to MHSA, and there are factors within that plan that are funded and set in motion. And then they're just gonna, what happens? Will they see through those, will the funding continue through those years that they've been approved? Maybe that's my question.
We can definitely put that on the agenda for next time, but right now we're in the 3rd year of the Mental Services Act. This is going to change. The transformation is going to be called Behavioral Health Services Act. So it's the same, and the funding is the same with the same proposition, the proposition 1. It changed the buckets of how the funding comes to the counties. It changed that we have to do an integrated plan for not only MHSA, now it will be called BHSA funding, but all our funding sources. So we do take our contracts to the board every year. Is that correct, Katie?
Correct.
So every year, this county does every year contract renewals, amendments, modifications. Every year it goes to our board of supervisor. So whoever is in a particular, I don't know, according, if you have a moment to come up with the innovation, would that be the only one that would change in 5 years only? As far as a contract with a particular provider, that probably would be the one that would remain. Let me have our expert at Courtney. Courtney.
Good afternoon, everyone. So actually innovations goes for 3 to 4 years, depending on the length of approval from the commission that approves innovation projects. Are we speaking about the mobile mental health project?
Do they get reviewed every year or? do
Right,
they stay with
so I believe it's a multi-year contract because, let me explain. The mobile mental health project was delayed in large part because we had a provider that had said yes to the contract, and they pulled out after about a year of contract, their decision. That created a delay in it starting. Our team then picked it up and have taken it over since then.
And I think the van was also getting customized, where some delays with the van.
Logistics of the van.
Yes. So, thank you, Courtney. So basically what's gonna happen is with this, we have one more year, 25-26, that is left of the 3-year Mental Health Services Act. July 1st of 2026 is gonna be a whole different integrated plan that would include the new way the funding is being allocated to the counties and all the funding streams that we have and all our services. And I know Courtney's come to present, but we'll probably do more presentations for you as we launch the stakeholder meetings, et cetera. But those who have contracts right now, they will be reviewed and evaluated for every year. They get reviewed by the board of supervisors every year. So I hope that answers the question.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I had a question.
Okay, yeah, Sylvia.
So I know that the input that you were getting from the groups and people and doing that outreach, that was for the BHSA, the new contracts that are coming up, trying to figure out which programs, would benefit everybody. Is that correct?
I have my expert here, Courtney, let me have her, explain that.
Can you state the question again?
So, a couple months ago, where there was a deadline for the, community input, correct?
So there are two things happening concurrently, which is under the Mental Health Services Act, which is current state. We conducted our community planning events back in February as part of our annual plan update, and that's a requirement under MHSA. We will be conducting additional stakeholder engagement processes in addition to what we've already been doing since the fall of 2024 on Prop 1. Like we've come here a few times, we've gone to other stakeholder engagement groups. We'll be conducting additional community planning processes approximately mid-September to mid-October.
So that would give us time to go back to our supervisors and
Yes,
work with them.
Can you clarify the question again?
Well, that would give us time to kind of like engage with our supervisors to ask them, you know, to help get that input to the communities. I know you guys work with them, but
Right.
as board of supervisors, I'm just trying, I feel like we just miss like the input or the timeline, and it's like, oh, okay, this is the deadline's today, and you know, you're not really having enough time to react. Or like they were saying about not having the input, like we see it after it's already approved. So if we could just get like a timeline for the Prop 1.
Yeah. So that's the mid-September to mid-October is when we'll be seeking and advertising with enough lead time to our entire community, as well as updating the BHAB about the community events and the opportunities for stakeholder feedback.
And then if we could get a timeline when you're going to be putting out the new proposals and then when those are due, I mean, just very rough.
Right. Well, the process is gonna look a little different under the Behavioral Health Services Act than it does under the Mental Health Services Act.
Okay.
So we will be going through this, a similar like process when it goes to the Board of Supervisors for approval, and that will still happen in a similar timeline to the annual update, which will start in approximately April, May, with final Board of Supervisor approval in June.
Okay.
So that part is simple, or similar. But I do want to reiterate, Sylvia, that we will be advertising this with significant lead time for the community, but please look for the dates that will be announced for mid-September to mid-October for community stakeholder input on the Proposition 1 integrated plan process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And so if I may, thank you so much, Courtney. If I may add, it is a little frustrating sometimes because the process is changing kind of drastically, and it is a little hard sometimes to explain all those details, but I can tell you that I know Dr. Dennering is not here right now, but I can tell you she's going to ensure, and I will definitely support her in any way I can, for you are our advisory board. So thanks to Courtney and the entire team who's been planning, there's been a lot of planning going on with this. There is a timeline that we're working under, but it has to be a transparent community involved in inclusion. It can't be behavioral health department by itself doing this. So that's what he was telling you approximately when the stakeholder meetings are gonna happen. And if you see the stakeholders, it's overwhelming for you to see who we have to include. It is a humongous task, it's huge, but we cannot, is one of the requirements. We will not escape that. We have to include the input. So we will listen to the input, we'll gather the information, we'll talk about this a little more as it gets closer to that date. And then we'll look at the allocation, the money, how much money we have, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be opportunity, and ultimately, like she said, it will be approved. There's different approval processes, and our board of supervisors that is also the one that approves it at the very end. When we have supervisor here in this group.
But it's
So-
something that we should be thinking about now.
Correct.
Given like, kids are on summer break, and if you want to include those parents,
Correct.
like thinking about, right, when September comes out, that information's put out, like we're happy to see.
And I think that the dinner, also probably announced already in here that we'll have a consultant that will be focused, working with Courtney and everybody. The community stakeholder process is gonna be so involved and very, very important. So, those will be very, when she does her updates and we come to you to share the updates of what's going on. We wanna use data that has been collected by the different sources we have here to ensure that we do data-driven decisions as well. To determine that it's based on need, for the population that we have to include as far as serving them. But I just want to assure you that it cannot escape, this process cannot escape the community planning process. It's required.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that. Okay, we are moving into now the county budget. Let me just say a couple things about this. If you look under view of county budget under new business, you see two links to Board of Supervisors meetings. One was in January, I think. And one was December. It was December, I take that back. And then the other one was June 3rd, so more recent. And these were included because they do talk about the county budget, of which of course the behavioral health department is part of. Now, the one we have here that we were going to show, which we thought was only 30 minutes, actually turns out to be 50 minutes. So that's a lot of time, and I realize that, and if people don't want to do that right now, you do have the link of how to do this on your own. So you can go to the Board of Supervisor meeting, you can look for the item number that is listed here on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors meeting and tune in. And Diane, go ahead.
I just want to say, if you do that, the reason why we went for the whole budget is Dr. Dennering said multiple times that behavioral health comes up so often throughout the entire budget that we wish that we could just have a section for behavioral health for you to listen to, and it would be a lot shorter. But she really felt strongly that because it came up in so many different budgets, that listening to the full 50 minutes was what we needed to do to grasp how many places this affects the behavioral health department.
Right, but so you have a choice. We just encourage you, if you decide to leave and listen on your own, which is fine. The meeting will be adjourned, so you can certainly do that, but if you do, just please do it on your own, really do it and really take a look at the budget, because for us going forward, like Sylvia, we've been saying, I mean, for us to know in terms of the budgeting going forward, we need to kind of understand the county part of it, which is not the whole thing, obviously, but a whole of it, and it's really important for us to understand that as much as we can. Okay, so I really can't adjourn the meeting, this is on the agenda, but I will just say to any of you who need to leave, that's okay. Just please show you what the budget meeting on your own, so we all have that same information. Otherwise, we are gonna ask Jackie to cue it up.
I have one more.
Okay.
Sorry, it was
Oh, go ahead.
I was the Cal BHB meeting is this Friday. That's the California Behavioral Health. Yeah. And then one of the things they're bringing up is the psychiatric advance directive. And so I'm hoping that Ventura will be in that second phase, so it's in Marina Del Rey, if you want to go in person. And yeah, so that's it.
It's on Zoom too, right?
It's on Zoom, yes.
Yeah, you can register.
And you can register, you have to register ahead.
You were supposed to register last week, but I'm hoping you can still register.
I'm sure you can.
I registered the last meeting for last minute for one of these and they still let me listen.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot, and she'll check into where we are with that, staff wise. Okay, thanks. Okay, anything else before Jackie cues this up? Okay, Jackie, you're on. And while you're doing that, I just want to also say thank you so much, Jackie, for all you've done for us. I didn't even think about the fact this was your last meeting, so we've all appreciated your professionalism and helping us in so many different ways, and hopefully you can train the new person or protect your place. I hope you get to train them.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
And for the Ventura County Fire Protection District, Ventura County Watershed Protection District, Ventura County Waterworks Districts, county service areas and all other non-general funds, approve applications for and acceptance of specified grants, receive and file fiscal year 2025-26 capital projects, and summary of recommended priority capital projects, and receive and file fiscal year 2024-25 third quarter budget update. Mr. Powers.
Good morning, board. Morning, Chair Hartman, CEO Johnson. My name is Scott Powers, your CFO. We're here to present today several items, not only the prelim budget, but a quick capital projects update and quarter three update for you today. So today's is our agenda. I'll be handing this off quickly to our budget director, Mr. Friedman, to discuss quarter Q3 updates, this current fiscal year, as well as next year's prelim presentation. I'll come back, talk about capital projects and what's happening in the federal state budget quickly. And then we'll move on to BCMS and their presentation as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Friedman.
Good morning, Chair Parkman, members of the board, CEO Dr. Johnson, Brian Friedman, Budget and Finance Division. So first off, to look forward to our 26 budget, we gotta figure out where we're gonna end. So we're looking at our third quarter update. So this is information through March 31st. So we coordinated with departments. This is specific to our general funds. We are currently estimating a $35 to $50 million residual fund balance. So that sounds a little large, but when you put that in the context of our total adjusted budget, that's about a 2% to 2.8% range that we're estimating to come back into fund balance. So you ask where the sources of residual fund balance are. So between $10 to $20 million of that is salary and benefit savings. But I'm making annotation that it's net of offsetting revenue. So trying to, offset those items that are paired together. Similar item for professional services, so between $5 and $10 million savings. And then on the revenue side, we have approximately $10 million additional in interest earnings over what we originally budgeted, as well as $10 million or so in additional property tax, primarily using the redevelopment agency property tax components. So with that $35 million, we have a plan on how we are going to allocate that within our fund balance structure. So the first element is to put $12.5 million towards our unassigned fund balance, which is our rainy day. This is the element that we look for fiscal stability and, when things come up, we need to have that set aside. So we are, with that addition, it's going to bump up the percentage as related to general fund appropriations to 13.15%. So our budget development manual looks to set that at a base of 10%, so we're well above that. And then when you look at GFOA recommendations, at approximately 2 months of operating expenditures, that's approximately 16%. So we're right in the middle. Looking towards some of the different elements that we have that are specific, to the county. We are looking to earmark $10 million towards the Family Justice Center. That is not meant to be for any particular Family Justice Center, that's just in general, so it can be utilized for all three. We realize that that's probably not sufficient for full coverage on everything that's planned, but trying to earmark at least something for that as we move forward on those projects. The next up is $10 million in capital renewal, looking specifically towards our deferred maintenance, trying to make a better emphasis on maintenance of our structures and our different facilities throughout the county. We have about $240,000 going towards the sign for litigation. So this is the restoration of that $1 million application. And then the residual of that 35 million then would be going to program mitigation, and anything over at $35 million that comes in would go there as well. So that's kind of a catch-all, if you will.
Can I just make a statement? I just think it's really important on this slide that we understand that this is one-time money.
Correct.
And that people understand what one-time money is that this is not to be fueled every year and it's coming from the state and the feds. And so I really want to say thank you to the board and our CEO and our staff to really understand that so that we could do the great things that we can do. Understanding that is one time and not operation costs and so forth. So thank you.
So that's where we're looking to end FY25. So next up are some of the guiding principles that we compiled this budget with. So looking at the board's established priorities, dovetailing in with the strategic plan, transparency, accountability, special emphasis on fiscally responsibility, as well as obtaining realistic projections. And then the one that I really want to emphasize for this particular budget cycle is that last one, budget monitoring, continuous assessment, specifically with revisions as required. So based upon what's going on with the state and federal budget and the ambiguity there, the uncertainty, this is going to be a key strategy that we're going to be deploying as we go forward, because the current budget does not make any assumptions on what changes that looks like. So this, for all intents and purposes, business as usual. But that's why we're going to be coming back to your board once we understand better what programs specifically are impacted, as well as the level of impact to personnel, whether that's actual services provided and the specificity thereof. So then we're getting into some key budget statistics. So when we look at the entirety countywide budget, with the one caveat that we're excluding internal service funds so as to avoid duplication, we're looking at a $3.229 billion budget, up at approximately 6.1%, or 185 million from the prior year. And of that, general fund makes up 1.5 billion, and non-general fund makes up 1.7 billion. And our internal service funds just shy of $500 million. So we have quite the range of increases. A lot of them are driven by inflationary pressures, as well as, the different MOU contracts and personnel staffing items. As we take a look at that from a total appropriations perspective, this is the 3.2 billion. 46% of that represents our general fund. And then next up is you have the medical system, medical system at 26%. So just those two items make up almost 3/4 of the budget. Then you have next up our protection district. But that's this is a general overview of where the different funding elements are for our countywide appropriations. When we get to specific general fund appropriations, this is where they are broken down by program areas. So very interesting split specific to appropriations, not actual net cost or application of general purpose revenue, but actual spend. We're looking at a very even split between administrative justice and the health and human services. So making up approximately 80% of our overall budget to the two primary areas. Between other governmental funds, general government and environmental balance makes up the 20% residual. So one of the key elements that goes into our general fund are these three different revenue streams. So when we talk about general purpose revenue, that makes up $580 million. It's up about 6.5% or 35 million for this year, but just shy of 90% of that is represented in property tax revenues. So there is a certain level of stability embedded in that, but there's also a certain level of capped growth in that as well. So next up, we have Prop 172, public safety sales tax, 97 million. So this is up about $4 million from prior year, 4.7%. And then the interesting one this year is realignment. So traditionally, we would be expecting that to rise, but we actually had a $5 million decrease in realignment. And this is more in the guise of a strategic positioning for behavioral health as they move forward on the implementation of Prop 1 and their anticipated need for this revenue stream in future years. So just highlighting some of those key elements. Now, when we look at those as a total in aggregate, you can see for the general fund taxes, primarily property tax, making up 36% of the pie, so a substantial portion. And then those other components that we were discussing with the Prop 172 and realignment are factored into the intergovernmental revenue at 42% pie, the portion of share. Now that does also include other federal and state revenue sources, but those two make up the vast majority of our revenue streams. And the last largest chunk being charges for services, which is really our rates and fees development that was presented to your board in May. And then there's a handful of other revenue streams that come into play. That's just the state of where our primary revenue streams are currently at. Couldn't have a discussion about the budget without full-time equivalents. So this particular year is unique in that for all intents and purposes, we are flat on our FTEs. So only a half FTE in growth between both general fund and non-general funds. So we actually have a reduction in general fund of about 95 FTEs and an offsetting growth in non-general fund of about 5.5 FTEs. So the primary elements causing that decrease in general funds are related to fixed term public health positions that are expiring in this fiscal year, as well as that behavioral health Prop 1 reimagining of services. Some of those positions are moving from a general fund budget unit down to a non-general fund. And this is what FTEs look like over time. So going back to fiscal year 16, so the chart on your left is a split between general fund and non-general fund versus county-wide on the right. When you look at FY22, that significant increase is primarily associated with our clinic integration at Ventura County Medical System. So the key elements here, being that stability and growth between, or lack thereof, between FY25 and FY26, keeping those FTEs very flat, going into a high degree of uncertainty. So that the primary elements within this, so this is being the general fund appropriations by expenditure type, is so much of our budget is actually based around personnel, salaries and benefits, making it just shy of 60% of the budget. That's not the entire story though, because within service and supplies, you have elements of the IT department as well as the general services department that are embedded there in terms of the ISF costs. So it's really even greater than 60% in terms of what personnel makes up of our budget. So with the upcoming MOUs that are pending negotiation, those could have a very significant impact onto our overall budget. So one of the questions that has come up is that on October 29th, we had presented a 5-year forecast to your board. And at that particular point in time, we had seen for FY26 a potential deficit of approximately $34 million. So this slide is just really up here to show you how we balance the budget, primary movers that we were able to get to a neutral balanced budget. So the primary elements being the top two in that the retirement rate actually came in lower than estimated. And we made a strategic decision on the health reimbursement arrangement to proceed on a pay-as-you-go methodology rather than a 15-year amortized cycle until the savings associated with the Alameda decision are reflected in retirement rates, given that that was the intended funding mechanism. When we look at some of the other items, some of the ISFs came in below assumptions. We were able to optimize a few revenue streams that over and above the inherent assumptions, and ultimately be able to deliver a balanced budget to you. So this year is not without great uncertainty. So we have quite a few potential impacts coming up that may or may not need budgetary revision or at least re-understanding or revision on where we stand currently. So the primary one, based upon the information previously presented, labor costs. We have pending negotiations coming up with multiple unions that will impact fiscal year 26. We also have a significant level of capital requirements, a lot of outstanding projects, and dovetailing with that, we also have a high degree of deferred maintenance on many of our facilities. A separate issue that's a little different than your traditional budget concerns is actually cash flow in terms of the general fund loan, the interfund borrowing that we have to balance, as well as the BHAB construction. So things being on a reimbursable basis for many of these elements, causing a cash outlay that we have to make sure and manage. And then the associated cost of that debt, given that interest rates are historically higher than they have been for the last several years. An element that is kind of unique is that we are getting towards the closeout of the FEMA projects related to COVID, and there's currently a potential risk of obligation denial for our non-congregate sheltering projects. So that was if I remember correctly, that was approximately $25 million that we were anticipating reimbursement on that. As we get closer to September, when it's finalized, we may or may not receive obligation for. And then the two that you're most people are very, very familiar with are the state and federal budget impacts. There's a lot going on there. There's also a lot of unknowns, so we don't want to proceed too aggressively until we understand the form and structure of what those impacts mean to the county. But that's exactly why we're emphasizing our monitoring interactions to make sure that we can come back to your board and make the appropriate revisions once we understand better in the finalized budgets. And next up, we got Scott for capital projects.
Brian, I'll just talk to this quickly. This is included in the budget as Exhibit 3, which is a summary of some of the large-scale capital projects that are going on. A lot of them are across the county, includes fire and department, includes the department airports and other ones, but want to make sure your board was aware of some ones on them that are on your radar as well. And some of those are included here. I won't go through them all, but I will note that in the next presentation is a capital improvements presentation that includes Public Works and CEO. We'll be speaking more about some of these projects as well. I did want to touch on the new fire training facility, which is supposed to be open, I believe, this summer, which is a great news. And that project's been a long strain, as well as the fire station 34, which has been completed. The one I wanted to touch on, and in spirit of Esteban's moment of inspiration, is the animal shelter. The animal shelter is something it's a 40-plus-year-old building. It's in dire need of rehabilitation, if not replacement. And we've been working on this for 10 years and trying to coordinate a funding mechanism, planning, design, and how to make this work. And now we're getting some strong economic time, so we're cognizant of that, but we're not giving up on that, and we're still plugging away. We're in the middle of a design of it. The funding for it, we're still working on it. Some will be financing, hopefully some will be some from our reserves if we can manage that. But that's a project we want to keep pushing forward. Of course, East County Family Justice Center, your board directed our office to seek identify a location in Thousand Oaks. We've been doing that with the help of the DA's office and our CO's team. I'm still looking for that right property that includes the aspects that the DA specified, so that is still in the works. Santa Paula Medical Campus, we're still in that planning development process of trying to make this work with this existing scenario we have with the need for a new hospital by 2030 in Santa Paula. as well as the location that's being proposed and trying to make that work for our needs. So that's still in negotiation discussion. And more to come on that as the months proceed.
And just to remind those that are listening, that the reason for the new hostel is because of the seismic situation we have to have from the state requires the seismic by 2030. And so the question is, it's always a question of the building that we have. And we have the opportunity to build a hospital or the needs of what the community needs. And so I really do want to say appreciate to the our leads to understand what the medical needs of the whole Santa Clara Valley. As you've heard before, Santa Paula versus Fillmore, but we're really looking for the needs for the whole Santa Clara Valley. So I just want to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, for that. I want to emphasize it's a Santa Paula Medical Campus, and it really is data-driven and looking at what are the needs of the community, what services are being used now, and using that data to inform next steps, being extremely mindful of the environment we're in and wanting to be good financial stewards. Thank you.
Yes, because I do get asked every time, why isn't there a dollar figure on that? And we have our Blue Ribbon Committee. I cannot talk about this, of the need of making sure we have to know the numbers so that we can budget, because we have to be very transparent with our funding, and it's crucial, even more so with our state and federal, that I didn't make a comment on before, because it's very hard to budget when you don't know what the costs are. So appreciate that. Thank you.
This slide is, well, this is something we're celebrating. I want to make sure it's really called out. And this is, normally we do capital projects, we're talking about some, but rarely do we have so many grant funded projects in the county. And I can say this is unprecedented. Working with Shauna for our team, we have close to $180 million of grant funded projects. There's about 120 plus million here, but also airports and other departments have them as well. But I wanted to focus really on what's up here, and what we call BHAB, Behavioral Health Continuum, is we're lazy, we're not gonna say BHCIP, which is keep 10 BHAB, and it becomes BHAB. But we put together on our team, I want to recognize Shauna Schlager and Clay McCarter, Dr. Dennering's team, Tina Wang from our office, Brian Deanna from Public Works Engineering, for putting together these two applications for the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center and the Psychiatric Health Facility. It was a quick turnaround. It was a lot of work to be done on the design development side, and they turned around and we got both. I really didn't expect that either from the state. So that's $95 million alone right there in those two projects. And as Brian was mentioning, there is a cash flow challenge for that, cash flow need for that. We will need to put up money and get reimbursed, and that's quite a bit of money. So we're cognizant of that, and we're including that in our planning moving forward. Just want to make sure your board is aware of that. Of course, Foster Library, and we have beds coming in at Knoll Drive, which are in design right now, and should be, and I believe a plan check, so those should be coming soon. So with what related to the state budget, the governor released his May revised on May 14th. He reported a budget deficit of $12 billion. About half of that he expected to address with what these significant actions are before you in terms of Medi-Cal actions related to undocumented individuals. It's complicated and it's being discussed at the legislature right now. What I've heard is that they're pushing back on that strongly. We'll see where that lands. So we're waiting. We're in this, as Brian said, we're in a wait and see approach as to what that impact will be. In addition, Prop 36 wasn't funded, and homeless funding wasn't included in that as well. Again, we hope the legislature will, and it usually happens that way. Of course, strong May revise, legislature fights back, pushes back, and we come with something before the deadline, which will be June 15th. This is the timeline, so hopefully on June 16th, we can report to your board some findings from that, some impacts. And I will also add that we expect to, at the budget hearings, to provide your board with a more in-depth analysis of what we're seeing at the federal and state level in a couple of weeks. So at the federal level, as we know, they're in a continuing resolution as that continues. They have some significant cuts that they're looking at, of course, in Medicaid, and it's the bill was passed by Congress a few weeks ago. It's with the Senate. They're pushing back. The public's pushing back. We'll see where that lands. Whether it gets split up into other bills like normally it happens, but we'll see how the Senate reacts. They have a July 4th deadline. no one's saying that's gonna happen, so we don't, not really expecting it. The other significant impacts I want to call out is the new work requirements that they're proposing for Medicaid, which has never been done before, which would be an impact to the county, of course, and SNAP funding. They're proposing to shift that to the states. There was some of that funding requirements, so the state would be required now to backfill the SNAP program. To what degree is up for, is your guess as good as mine. And the last thing I want to mention is the state budget is that a third of the state budget is federal revenue. So we need to be tracking, and we are tracking, and the state is really reliant on that, what happens at the federal level. So we're seeing the budget process in its full shining glory right now. And the last thing I kind of want to call out after I go looking ahead is the differences in the fiscal year. So the federal government has an October to September fiscal year. Cities, counties, and state has a July to June fiscal year. So we have that 3-month kind of funky gap. And that's kind of what we're in right now. And I wanted to just kind of brief your board on where we are moving forward with these, with the budget and what we expect to happen. So again, I mentioned July 4th is a deadline. This probably won't be met. Mid-July is another parallel conversation with the feds, which is the debt ceiling, which is just another conversation in the political environment. And then September is their deadline to pass this budget and in preparation for the new government fiscal year. Now, the state, they'll have their budget passed by June. So when the Fed passes their budget in July, August, September, the state's gonna come back and make their modifications. Then we're gonna come back and to your board to finally digest this, and I would expect by the end of this calendar year, we'll be before your board with a more solid outlook as to where we will be. Again, this is a really erratic and economic environment. There's a lot of variables out there. So this is the best we can do right now in terms of being prepared. And even now, we're already talking about what will happen and what can we do, what levers do we have to pull to make this the budget balance. And not only due to the state and feds, but it's the labor negotiations too.
Next question. I'm curious, how do we handle if the feds are making their budget modifications in maybe October, November? Is there any backdating of changes of programs, or do you think it would only be moving forward?
I believe it's only moving forward. And if they don't, they would continue the continuing resolution. If they don't do it, any conclusions, but yes, I don't think there would be any clawback, so to speak, of funding. I'll follow up on that though.
I am curious on that because there has been a lot of state and federal disagreements as to how programs should be run and how they are. And so I just didn't know, how do we prepare best for that? Is it to have the reserves for the cash flow? I know with the hospital, we have things where we don't get paid on the timely manner you would think a normal business would be paid. And so just cautious of that.
And the last thing before I hand it off to Dr. Cho, I just want to say, related to our reserves and the importance of them right now in this environment, number one. But number two is our capital needs, and we have a healthy list of capital needs. We much prefer using our fund balance than using financing if we can. And the third thing I want to mention is when Brian was mentioning about FEMA, when COVID hit, the county put forth $190 million over the course of a couple of years towards FEMA, and we have been reimbursed up to 165 million plus or minus, and we're fighting for that last 25. But it's those reserves that we have that allow for that to happen. And should there be another disaster, we need to have these reserves in place to be prepared for these types of actions moving forward. And if I can, that action has been happening since 2020, March is when it hit. But that FEMA engagement has happened since then. And two people on my team, Tina Wang and Mike Kumazawa, have led that effort very strongly on weekly meetings with FEMA and Cal OES, fighting for our dollars and tracking them. I just want to take a moment to recognize them. It was no small affair. So, and with that, I would like to bring up Dr. Cho. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Good morning, Chair Cartman, CEO Dr. Johnson, members of the board. I'm Teresa Cho, the Healthcare Agency Director. I want to start, if we go to the next slide, or can I advance it? Thank you. I want to start with a reflection on the mission of the healthcare agency. This for us is not just a statement, but it's a commitment by the executive leadership team, the team that I have with me here today, as well as all of our dedicated staff, to provide access to the highest quality care to anyone in our county who needs it. And I think in light of the looming challenges that we face, it's especially important to remember that it's our responsibility to use our resources strategically and wisely so that we can continue and sustain the care that our medical system provides, and to sustain our mission. Today's presentation from the healthcare agency is a budget presentation that will focus on the Ventura County Medical System, which is comprised, as you know, of 2 hospitals, BCMC and Santa Paula Hospital, as well as over 30 clinics throughout the county. I'm going to start with this busy slide at the top. And before we get into the financial details with our CFO, Mike Taylor, I wanted to offer a little historical perspective and context around what is clearly an increase in our expenses. I think this slide really shows you that our mission to care for the community is not just aspirational, it's an active mission. It shows that there's a growing demand for our care. Looking at our 5-year trend, there's mostly steady growth in our hospital patient days, our ER visits, our clinic visits, our surgery volumes, and our obstetrical deliveries. And then I'll draw your attention to the bottom that includes our full-time equivalents, to understand some of the costs that we bear as we hire staff to support the increasing work with the volumes rising. Again, these hires are made strategically and mindfully, and you'll note that we typically do not fill all of our budgeted FTEs because we're trying to be mindful of the cost. So I'll now turn over our presentation to Mike Taylor, our HCA CFO, and I'll be back to speak a little bit later after he goes over some of the financial details.
Thank you, Dr. Cho. Thank you, Chair Parkman, CEO Dr. Johnson, and members of the board. Mike Taylor, CFO for the healthcare agency. So I'll turn your attention, if I may, to row 8, which is the bottom line. The bottom line that we see here is not the same as the bottom line we've seen in the ACFA reports for the past 4 years, for these 4-year period we're looking at. We thought for purposes of this presentation, we should back out the pension adjustments, which are about 42 million favorable. So this would be without those pension adjustments to get more of a baseline indication of the bottom line. So a couple of numbers stick out here. First is FY 2021 with a $30 million net income. During that year, we did record as income. We received in the first quarter of the public health emergency period, we received $47 million in provider relief funding that was paid to providers nationwide based upon nothing you submitted for that funding, but based upon your previous Medicare cost reports, information that was in there, gauging your size of low-income care and gauging your need to assist with in addressing COVID. So really the costs of COVID were incurred over a 3-year period during the public health emergency, yet for the provider relief fund guidelines, the PRF guidelines, it had to be booked, most of that, 43 million of that was booked in fiscal 2021. So although we continue with the higher costs in 22 and 23, again, most of that income disproportionate booked in 2021. Another one that sticks out is, that really stands out, is the loss in the most recent fiscal year of 20.6 million. As you may recall, as we had reported, Dr. Cho reported last fall, we had a $17.5 million unfavorable adjustment. It was a statewide disproportionate share closeout schedule going all the way back to fiscal year 14-15, which tended to impact the county health systems negatively and benefit the UC systems, given the UC system's higher mix of Medicare patients and the county health system's higher mix of Medi-Cal patients. So that was a big reason for that larger loss, again, related to prior years, fiscal year 14-15. So there's before I get into QIP, so just looking at the revenue trend, first the expense trend, we do have 40% increase in expenses over this 4-year period. Revenues, if we back out the provider relief funding in 2021, have increased higher, 45%. That's favorable. However, most of that increase, a large majority of the increase and more of our funding comes through supplemental funding programs. And these programs, as you may recall, the funding comes in 18 to 24 months later, which puts a significant cash flow burden, as Scott and Brian have referred to, significant cash flow burden on the medical system and the county at large. So we'd much rather that more of that funding comes through our claims-based reimbursement on a weekly basis. But at this, up until now, the greatest success that the California Association of Public Hospitals has had in working on behalf of the county health systems with the state and with CMS is that it comes through these programs. So yeah, that's really what we'd really like to see down the road. Our wish list is that would come more on claims-based reimbursement. So there's all the great work that the folks within the medical system do on a daily basis. There's sort of a baseline which has remained fairly constant. Some of the numbers have gone up and down. One of the largest is our largest program by far is the Quality Incentive Program or the Quality Improvement Program, QIP. Through no fault of our own, the maximum available to VCMS through that program had decreased, and in 2024, that maximum available to us was $23 million lower than our 2021 baseline. The good news is on the 40 quality measures, we do very well. We perform at or near 100% the past several years, which is not true of all the county health systems when we see their numbers. And actually allows us to participate in a high performance pool for some measures where we overperform if we tend to underperform in some, which gets us to 100%. So the maximum available to us again was down $23 million in 2024 compared to the baseline. CAPH had been working with the state and CMS to address that. So the reason ours had gone down is our pro rata share, the size of our system relative to other systems had decreased. In large part because some of the systems had added hospitals to their healthcare system. Santa Clara, for example, has added 3 large hospitals now to their healthcare system. That has been addressed, and was approved in January, a significant increase to the QIP program and the EPP program. So QIP, instead of being down 23 million, will now be up 24 million as we get into the budget for next year. There's a big reason, it's the largest number that's impacting that bottom line increase in those 2 years. And our projected amount is right in between, where it's right at $6 million higher than it would be for the 2021 baseline. So again, the strain, significant operational challenge and cash flow challenge, we see it on row 11, supplemental funding receivables, the significant increase there over time as those programs have grown, but the amount of funding that we receive in the claims-based reimbursement process has not increased nearly as much. We have a general fund advance balance projection on row 10 of 283 million. We actually have a pretty good chance of coming closer to 260 million. There are some large receivables we have from our largest payer. They have also provided an advance to us, so we're reconciling those amounts with our largest payer. We think that will be reconciled by September 30th, and then we'll come to a fairly small number, the amounts they owe us, the amounts we owe back to them. And our preliminary projection for next fiscal year is that it does begin to stabilize, that there would be no material increase in the general fund advance between June 30 of 2025 and June 30 of 2026. Our net patient AR on row 12 also reflect the increase there, reflects the challenges that our largest payer has had pursuant to a system conversion they've had, and part of the additional funds that they owe us at this time. So the first 3 columns on this slide are the same information that we just reviewed, the last 3 columns on the previous slide with a little bit more detail. So number 1 is net operating revenue. We're projecting an increase of 8.5%. Over half of that increase is due to the increase in QIP funding and EPP funding that we discussed. The remainder is attributable to a 4% increase in volumes and nominal rate increases, which would be or are a little bit lower than the rate increases we've experienced over that past 4 years, that past 4-year trend. Salary and benefits and registry, row 3, 9.6%. So this includes 5.6% of salary rate increases and benefit rate increases, many of which have already been negotiated in the union contracts. And it also includes a 4% allowance for the volume growth. Now, if their volume growth of 4% doesn't transpire, for example, if it's 2%, not 4%, then we would expect salaries to be 2% below budget. And then again, there the bottom line. I also want to point out interest expense. So we do have an increased interest expense with the interest now in the general fund advance. But the county also increased county contributions significantly beginning this year to help cover that cost. And then again, the same bottom line information we reviewed in the previous slide. This is the net position, or what some may call the fund balance, in some organizations of the medical system. So it is increasing, a slight increase, not where we want to be, but it's good to be moving up. But again, a large portion of this is attributable to the accrual-based income from these supplemental funding programs. But the cash isn't in hand, and that's the really significant operational strain, operational challenge for both the medical system and the county. And then here we have, so again, showing the operational challenge, the total revenues, where 38% of our funding comes through the supplemental funding sources, over 309 million budgeted. On the expense side, within the services and supplies, I have a little more detail. So the largest line items within that, $79 million paid to physicians, to physician groups to serve our patients, anesthesiology coverage, other coverages, for example, within that, which the gap between what physicians receive for Medi-Cal services and Medicare services is far greater than even what we would receive. So we do help close that gap to help keep them near market. We also have 57.7 million in other purchase services, 43 million in pharmaceuticals, and 54 million in other medical supplies. And Dr. Cho, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I think it's easy to see the large portion that the supplemental revenue occupies in our revenues at 38%. And this is quite typical of public health care systems throughout California, but you can see that while it's a critical source of our funding, and it's a large amount of the money that we have to support the work that we do with our large portion of Medi-Cal patients and serving as a safety net, again, with that delay in funding, which is partly necessary because you have to finish out the year, count how you did with your quality performance, turn that into the state, and then the state has to validate that data before they pay it out. So there are some real reasons for that delay, but again, as Mike mentioned, rather than putting the money to support that care in a supplemental program, it would be great if we could just get paid for it at the time of service. So on the next slide, this is a busy slide on our supplemental funds. I want to just point out that here, we typically got the full amount at about 18 months after we finished the performance. One positive change in addition to the increase in the dollar amounts that Mike mentioned is that we'll get half the amount in the fall and then the other half at the typical time in the spring, which actually does help stabilize us a bit. Getting that money 5 months sooner will give us some greater stability late into 26 and into 27 when we see the full benefit of the increased funding on this accelerated timeline. So I know Scott mentioned a little bit about the governor's May revise, and I thought we should really talk about that elephant in the room on this slide. On the left-hand side are some of the governor's proposed changes to Medi-Cal. And as I mentioned, these are some of the looming challenges and headwinds that we face. We put proposed really big on the slide because I just want to point out that we still, of course, don't know what of these proposals will actually end up in the budget once the legislature has worked this out with the governor. But you may have heard that there is an enrollment freeze proposed starting in 2026 for individuals with unsatisfactory immigration status or UIS status. There's a proposal for a monthly premium of $100 starting in 2027. A removal of the PPS rate, which is the proposed prospective payment system, which we use in our federally qualified health centers. We have 19 in our ambulatory care system. As you know, our most recent addition was our Magnolia Dental. Those are paid at this PPS rate, which really kind of tries to cover the cost of care. But the reimbursement for those is threatened by this proposal for the UIS individuals only. So this is not for everyone else. This is just for that subset of patients who are in that UIS status. And then lastly, in that proposal is an asset verification requirement for seniors and disabled adults. On the federal side, on the right-hand side, some of what has passed the House is an implementation of work requirements, which I'm sure you've heard of. There are some limitations on coverage that are proposed, reductions in state Medicaid funding, which of course will then affect the items on the left-hand side, and then conducting eligibility assessments. And many of the details of this, of course, are forthcoming, and we are closely watching all of those as they develop. So as we follow those items closely, we continue to advocate with CAPH, as Mike mentioned, to advocate for modifications to this proposal to really minimize the effect on our system. But we do recognize the challenges ahead. We do have rising pharmaceutical costs. I think every time I present, there's an increase in cost for drugs that we use to treat our patients. We also have the increase in the minimum wage in the healthcare sector. And we will continue to work towards many of our achievements to try to mitigate some of these threats. The high level of performance that we have on our quality metrics really has resulted in drawing down maximum funding on the supplemental programs, and we really need to kind of keep our foot on that pedal to make sure that we can achieve those high goals again. We have a lot of other strategies that we're trying to make sure that we optimize what we have. So scheduling tactics to make sure that we are filling our empty slots, even if our population of service may shift a bit with these changes. We've collaborated with other hospitals to make sure that we fill gaps in service lines as we see changes in pediatric services across the county. We know also, and I know we talked about Santa Clara River Valley and the community there, that we need to stay closely connected to the community to understand truly what the needs are, and those needs could evolve over time. We know that planning strategically is really critical to navigate the shifts, make right decisions, make strategic decisions so that we remain sustainable. But there's clearly more to come. And I just want to end with saying that regardless of whatever changes may come, that the agency does remain committed to our mission, to our duty really to serve everyone in the community who needs healthcare. With that, I'll close and turn over to Mr. Powers for our conclusion of this presentation.
Thank you. Dr. Cho, last slide. Just wanted to close with a few comments and putting this in parameters as to what other counties are experiencing. And we are in a solid, stable position budgetarily compared to other counties, you could argue. LA County, LA City up north as well. But you see many counties are just kind of in a wait and see approach as well, just trying to move along and brace and analyze and prepare. That's what we'll be doing. So when I mentioned preparation is key, it's also monitoring as we go forward what those impacts will be, and then in parallel with preparation. So we are delivering a balanced budget. We are funding Prop 36. So we have positions in public safety and behavioral health that we've addressed. The general fund remains in a strong position, and I really want to really support this limited growth notion, and I'm really happy to report that our FTEs are level, are flat for a general fund. That's been many years since that's happened, and that's showing some level of responsibility in terms of our budget growth. And with that, we will close and take your board's comments and questions.
Comments? I don't think we need to do that. Yeah.
For those of you who stayed, thank you. It does give you kind of an overview of what's going on and kind of where we fit in it. Hopefully, we'll have lots more discussions, but that's sort of the background. So, okay. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody heading home towards Santa Paula, plan on a long drive. There is a fire burning in the river bottom right now. It's like, it's growing. It's 5 to 6 acres at this point.
Yeah, the 126.